Hello, everyone. It's Matt Rivaldi, and I'm giving you a preview of the new Photoshop beta so we can use some AI-generated images and manipulation. Let's check it out. First of all, you have to have a Adobe account, but if you do, open up your Creative Cloud and click on Apps, and then Beta Apps, and you need to download and install the Photoshop beta. I already did this just now. If you don't have the Photoshop beta, you won't be able to do all the things I'm going to show you today. So open that up and let's take a look. I have mine open. Let me share my screen. So I've got an image here I took of my dog, Walter. Isn't he cute? There's a number of things you can do with the generative AI in the Photoshop beta. So for example, you can take the lasso tool and you can select an area right here, and you can generative fill it. You can say put another dog similar to the one, a photo, sleeping quietly here, enjoying the sun. Enjoying, and let's see if I can spell it right, enjoying the sun. Whatever you want there. Click generate. It'll generate. No, I wasn't too careful on the lasso. Let's see how it does with Walter's body here on the right. Does it incorporate that into the image? Does it take it away? We'll see. I don't know what this is right here. It's added something in the background that's really weird. But it does give you some options. If you don't like this one, maybe you like this one. Okay, that's a little weird. That's a little strange. This is good. But the neat thing is that it puts it as this graphic right here. So let's see if I can take the lasso and I can select this first layer and say, you can probably just delete it. It's not directly editable. Okay, so it's an AI fill. Can we remove this box image? I don't know what that is. Does it do anything? I grabbed a bunch of Walter's face, kind of on purpose to see what happens. And it does it fairly quickly. The neat part about this versus using, it did, I guess I grabbed too much of his face. It did warp it out, but I suppose if I didn't select that image, it would have been a little better. None of them really kept his face, but okay. So, and again, you can always opt out of that, put it back. So that was a good one. Let's do another test. Somebody was telling me, oh, let's do a new image. So if you go to new, hopefully you can see this screen. Let me expand this just in case you can't. I'm gonna stop share. Let me share the whole desktop. Okay. So, okay, let's do something new. A default Photoshop size is fine. You can either import image or generate image. So this is kind of a neat tool. So you can generate an image totally on its own. You can say a photo of a dog laying in the patio enjoying the summer sun on a warm day in Tuscany, Italy. I want to see. Let's see. Let's add German Shepherd. I think I'm spelling it wrong, but let's see if it generates it anyway. Okay, so it'll generate an image, and you're not giving any reference, so it's just going to generate something on its own. So, okay, so it's incorporating some of the Tuscan sun. These are pretty amazing images. This is all photo generated. So these aren't actual dogs. It's pretty amazing. what it can do. That's pretty good. Let's do that again. Let's do a new one. This time, let's give it a reference. Let's create this, generate image, and I will give it a reference image, and I will choose the image, and I'll choose the image of that dog that I'd used before. Walter. Okay, so I'm telling the AI generative tool that I want to make it look like this image that I already have. An image of a German Shepherd. I think I'm spelling it wrong. Shepherd dog laying in the sun of a patio in Tuscany, Italy. I know it's not exactly the same prompt, but let's see what it generates based on the current one. Pretty quick. I mean, it's not instant. I mean, it's definitely going somewhere, but okay. All right, that's looks good. And there's a couple options. Definitely more German Shepherd. This one's kind of looks like Walter a little bit more. Sure. Walter is not 100% German Shepherd. He's a mix, but yeah, it gives that kind of look. That's cool. Okay, and the last thing, a student in one of my AI classes was asking me, can we use Photoshop to take current images and work with them? And so I believe she works at a retail shop, and she wanted to kind of change her background or see if she moved things around in her store, what it would look like. So there's a couple things we can do with Photoshop Beta. One is we can expand the image, the canvas. And you could say, it says right here, if you leave this blank, we'll fill the, I think it said we'll fill the expanse to match the current image. So I didn't have to put a prompt in there. It just knows automatically that it's gonna fill that background. So yeah, if you ever needed expanse, okay, that one looks pretty good actually. Just a really long couch. My couch is not that long. It actually it ended just past this image here, but it just made it a super long couch, which is fine. It did a pretty good job on this carpet. Not perfect. There's a little error right here. The door looks good. If we go to some of the other images, it started to put a pillow on there. It did a little better job on the carpet. This probably did the best job. So let's keep that one. It gets a little tricky when it also put the roof in here, kind of estimated when the ceiling is. So you can see the layers that it's two different layers. Sometimes it's easier if you merge those layers, so it doesn't have to think about doing more stuff. Let's use the lasso tool, and let's select this area. We'll be a little more careful here. Draw on this. And I'm going to say generative fill, and I'm going to say replace blue sofa with a red love seat. Generate. Generating. Okay, not really red. Not really a red love seat. But you can see it added some things in the wall. Well, definitely interesting options. I mean, maybe I can go back to that generation tool, but you can see that it's starting to add different things in here. It gives you a couple different options. Okay. Let's see. Remove TV and replace with Tuscan painting. With a Tuscan painting. I'm on the, oops. I don't know what I just did here. replace the TV with a painting of an Italian Tuscan countryside. Let's see how it does. Okay, that's not that great. Not really a painting. These are okay. I mean, definitely not bad, not bad, but interesting. Can we move these? We can move it. It's interesting. So it does create that image. Oh, it just literally puts it over the top. So you can edit things if you wanted to a little bit. Like if you didn't want that this thing, you could probably just delete that or just replace it. So, okay. Interesting. Still toying around with it. Definitely a fun tool. The one thing I will say is also you can do another image, and I was doing all photographs. You can also do art style. Generate an image of a German Shepherd mix dog on a patio on a warm Tuscany, Italy countryside. Okay, let's see what if it looks different with the, and I did not put any reference photo in there, so. All right, so definitely interesting. It gives a very similar style. Oh, fun. All right, that's a little preview of Photoshop beta. Okay, enjoy.